Okay, I survived Hurricane Delta. I'm still out of power. I have a generator. And occasionally even internet. Occasionally. Hopefully I'll be able to post this. Still got a lot of videos already scheduled, so there'll be something on this channel. But, and I'm under the weather. I don't know what it is about hurricanes, but every time I get hit by one, I come down with some sort of illness. So I guess I'm allergic to them. I don't know. But anyway, came across this little tidbit. HBOMax gave a little, well, yeah, only a little bit of a tease about what their Green Lantern Corps will look like. So right off the bat, the interesting thing was there will be no Hal Jordan or John Stewart in it. I mean, maybe they'll make an appearance, but it won't be about them. So they released a statement, and they talked about, from Berlanti Productions and HBO Max, DC, and Warner Brothers Television. Yeah, boy, it's a lot of cooks in that kitchen. To adapt the iconic comic book franchise, a saga spanning decades and galaxies. Yeah, that's getting to be a bit misleading as we go forward. Green Lantern will depict the adventures of a multitude of lanterns, including Guy Gardner, Jessica Cruz, Simon Baz, and Alan Scott. Now, Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz are very recent superficial token characters added in. Baz, I don't think... mostly been with Justice League and whatnot. I don't know much about his story, and I don't know if he got him as much development yet. And I wasn't a big reader of Green Lantern, but he was in Justice League, and so was Jessica. And then Jessica kind of became the bigger deal. And her stories was one of these strange stories. It's kind of like with Walking Dead, what they did with the Carol character in the TV show. Yeah, someone's flying an airplane. Where you have someone who's the complete opposite of what they become. I don't. In her and Jessica Cruz's case, she's had terrible phobias. She was very fearful, and they figured that would make her a perfect candidate to succeed Power Ring from the Crime Syndicate, as the original Power Ring wielder died. And then the Power Ring chose her, probably because it figured it could dominate her because she was so scared all the time. So she overcomes that, but I just don't think that would make her into the character she is now, where she's, take command, badass, and, flies in the face of danger and all this sort of stuff. It's just not very well done. If they just wanted to have their superficial character, which is what it was, and I guess she could have been that way all along. But after a while, it's getting crowded with the Green Lantern Corps, so many humans being the Green Lantern. Certainly some of the aliens should have more of the different species, have more Green Lanterns from their different planets and stuff like that. But in this day and age, you want to get noticed by again, superficial media sites who will give you praise for this, and then that's it. As if it's going to be some sort of buzz that'll get noticed and help boost the sales of your comic book series. It never works. Stuff like the death of Superman and stuff like that years ago would do that. And of course, now the death of Superman took place in the time of the early 90s boom and that sort of thing. But none of this really. It does get a lot of mention and that sort of thing, but then nothing. But more than those two, really. And Simon Baz, of course, is a Muslim, so that was his big token aspect of him. And that's it. He's the Muslim Green Lantern, and that's all they ever did with him. Now, Jessica Cruz, at least they gave her this condition she had, but I don't think they knew what they were doing and didn't weave it very well. So at least she got that, besides just being Latina. So, but that's basically what she's there for, is to be they said, oh, good Lord, we never did a Latina Green Lantern. Well, yeah, but there's other characters and stuff, but whatever. So, finally, Alan Scott will be there, who was never a member of the Green Lantern Corps. Alan Scott was in another universe where there are no Green Lanterns. He's the only Green Lantern, not just of Earth, but of the whole universe, and it was a different scenario. I suppose at some point, I don't know if they ever did, someone could have said, well, there was a Green Lantern Corps in his universe, but they all died, and that was the last lantern, and he found it, or something like that. Maybe that's what they'll do, but I doubt it. So they list him as Alan Scott, and they make a big deal about him and said, Earth's first Green Lantern, who, true to the comics, is a gay man, and many more, meaning more characters. But this isn't really true to the comics. They retconned him as part of the New 52 push that DC Comics did a while back. The overall reboot increased sales for a little while, and then it plummeted back down, probably lower than it was before. It ended up being a failure, and that's why they did Rebirth, and they went pretty much back to where they were, more or less, and all that sort of stuff. But as far as the gay version of Alan Scott, where is he now? Nowhere. They did this version. They called it Earth 2, which they probably should have just called it Justice Society. I don't know. But anyway, the idea being that this was a new version of a parallel Earth where those old characters were now contemporary young characters. They weren't veterans of World War II and all that, which is what the original case was. Alan Scott was the first Green Lantern character in the 40s. And then by the end of the 40s, after the war was over, the kind of superhero hype and sales that had happened, that had boomed earlier, all faded. And comic books by the end of the 40s, the top selling titles was horror, science fiction, even romance was beating out superhero stories, and crime stories, stuff like that. Those were the more popular genres in comic books. The only superheroes that sold well was Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman actually was doing pretty good, and Captain Marvel. But Captain Marvel, who was probably the most popular of the four, got sued out of existence by DC at the time. Well, it was National Publications at the time, but it's DC Comics. And Green Lantern was one of the ones that got canceled. So towards the end of the 50s, right at the tail end more or less, they did a reboot of old characters and changed their stories and stuff. And a couple of the characters who got changed a lot was like the Flash got changed and had a different name, a different character altogether. Just the name, the Flash, and the powers would be the same, but it was a totally different guy. And the same with Green Lantern. And not only did they change all of it, now he was the member of a space cop, force, and all of that. And it was a totally different guy, different background story, and all that stuff. Then after a while, they decided to just clarify this and say, well, those original characters, they did exist, but that was in a parallel universe. And they would cross over. So that started with the Flash, and then eventually the Justice League and Justice Society would meet each other, and they would see that, there would be these differences and all that. But those were the characters who existed during World War II. And they kept it like that, even though as the years go by, that becomes kind of absurd. But then with superpowers and magic, well, they live on, I guess, whatever. And Justice Society actually became this title where they were the old guard mentoring younger superheroes. And it wasn't that bad of an idea, and some of those were pretty good. But overall, the sales of DC Comics were not doing good, so they did this big redo to get excitement going and all that. And they decided to make all the characters younger. And from reading, I did follow the Earth 2 series for quite a few issues. There were some interesting aspects to it, but overall it went nowhere, and it got really bizarre with the Earth is destroyed and they have to get a new Earth, and it's kind of space age. It's like, I don't even know how this remains a superhero story anymore. And I lost interest. But the gay Alan Scott story just seemed slapped on, shoehorned in, and then kind of just fizzled. Right off the bat, he's with this boyfriend of his who dies pretty quickly. It's used as a catalyst for him becoming a superhero, so that happens a lot in superhero stories. But for all the vaunted stuff there wasn't a whole lot to it. It's just, oh yeah, he's gay. Okay, move on. So, which, whatever. But then the boyfriend did come back to life. He got superpowers and became an elemental of the world that got destroyed anyway. I don't know. But it didn't work. There was nothing there to say, wow, this is a version you'd really want to put your money on, huh? Well, no, not really. And I don't know how they're going to do this, if they're going to just merge the story where he is the Green Lantern of Earth in another universe, and these Green Lantern guys encounter him, and they'll just say, well, this guy was gay, even though Alan Scott had been married, also had an affair with another character that resulted in the birth of twins, one of whom became the superhero Obsidian. And he was gay. Had this whole story mapped out, and there were father and son stories between them and all this stuff. This whole drama they could utilize and make use of, but he just wasn't famous enough. So sorry, Obsidian, you're just not good enough to count. And a headline on his site, Green Lantern gay, would be more than Obsidian's gay, So that's all it was. And there was teases and clues that they were going to bring back the original Justice Society at some point. I don't know if they did it or not. Everything's such a mess now. And so maybe Obsidian he actually had a pretty cool look to him. He was the brother of Jade, who was the hot green chick who I guess was just born with Green Lantern powers, while her brother was this shadow character. I don't know about Jade, but he got retconned as some villain or something. He wasn't Green Lantern's son, obviously. Green Lantern, he wasn't procreating anywhere. So, but it didn't go anywhere. But that's all it is. And then this, on the purpose of HBOMax, seems to think that'll give buzz to the show. The problem with a lot of this stuff, whether it's this or it's hey, we got a diverse cast and all that, and hype that up, I'm often discover that with these shows that this is more cover for lackluster material, that there's no real plot there. I know they're going to be spending a lot of money on it, so it'll look cool, but I've sat through 2 seasons of Star Trek Discovery that had a lot of money spent on it, and the outer space stuff looked really great, but all icing and no cake. And so a lot of this stuff, it gets buzz at these sites by people who will not watch your show. They didn't buy the comic books, even though they praise them. This market, you seem to think, exists for this, just for the purposes of that and for the representation, without any stories that aren't organic unto themselves, that have depth, and it could be completely wrong. It may have it here, but for the most part, on very few occasions, it's quite the case that it's very empty and it's just slapped on there. And so that's the cause for concern. Plus, it's just, good Lord, this is an old character. It's decades. I mean, it's like Iceman, it's just stupid. And then they go on to say there'll be new heroes to join the ranks of the Green Lantern Corps, and they'll make new characters out of the show itself. Well, there you go. You might even have a gay couple of Green Lanterns on there of your own new characters, but they just won't do it. And it's just this idea that I'm doing some great favor, in this case for gay people, by giving you a character that was the straight character. And that's why he's important, and that's why he's good, because he's been straight for a long time, and now he's going to be this gay character. It's the same thing when you race swap one. At least Jessica Cruz and Simon Bass, they're original characters. So in that respect, I got more respect for them than I do with this, which is, again, just very on the nose, superficial nonsense. So the one saving grace here is Guy Gardner will be a part of the show, and a lot of times he's one of these a-hole characters, and an a-hole character can be a lot of fun, and maybe he'll have to carry the show. As for where this goes and how they'll handle it, because if he's not in his own universe and whatnot, and he's just another Green Lantern, a part of the Green Lantern Corps, which he never was, that's even further. It's why even bother? You might as well have a brand new character. So another character they didn't mention was Kyle Rayner. I don't know where he'll fit into this. whether they'll make appearances or not. But they're still banking on a movie, and apparently that Jon Stewart will be the primary Green Lantern for Justice League going forward, depending on where that goes after the Snyder Cut and all that stuff. So, but yeah, it's just it could be wrong. It could, on its own, but it won't be the real Alan Scott. It won't be the story. It won't have any respect for that character, decades old, in that whole story of multiverse and all that stuff. Maybe they will utilize the multiverse, but it won't be it'll be so far removed from the story that it might as well be a brand new character. So, but that's what they do, and it's just for the mentions that they'll get, which are meaningless. I don't know what the fascination with that is. It achieves really nothing, but they keep doing it. It's a small circle there, a small bubble, and apparently there's no escape. Yeah. All right, there you go. We'll see eventually what Green Lantern Corps has in store.
Alright, thank you for watching and listening. Why not like and subscribe, and check out that link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores and have plenty of goodies for you. Hats, mugs, stickers, posters, all that goody stuff. Plus, you can head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book Night Night. Oh, yeah. Plus, you can also catch my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, over at RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on my channel at BitChute. That's the Mr Nailsin channel on BitChute.com.